Allison is from Alpine School District, and she's going to talk to us about deaf and hard of hearing LSL. Is that good? It says it right there, spoken language. Here we go. We're off. Vince, can you zoom in just a little bit on that camera? Does it? Do you have her in your scope? You can see her?
Oh.
She's good? Okay.
Do you want me this way more?
Whatever you want. You can stand wherever you want to be.
Okay. I feel like sometimes it's valuable to know kind of where we come from, our experience, those kinds of things, because that really frames how we think about our students, how we serve them, how we change our path when needed. And Michelle. So I grew up in Illinois.
Hello, how did I not know this?
I don't know.
I'm from Champaign-Urbana.
There you go. We went there a lot. Anyways, The Last Dance is an ESPN documentary on Michael Jordan, and it has some of his relational stuff with Kobe Bryant, and it's really amazing.
Called Last Dance?
The Last Dance on ESPN.
It's good.
It's very, very good. So, anyways.
I would love to watch that.
Because we would watch Jordan and Pippen all the time, whenever there was a big game, especially when they killed Utah in that series. Anyway, so I'm the youngest of 12 kids. I've had nieces and nephews that received speech therapy. I had one niece in particular that was a select mute, and then one niece that had four sets of tubes, and she would speak in vowels. So it was which is very similar to some of our kids that we find in that preschool age. So I graduated from a small town in Illinois in 2000, graduated from BYU in 2004 with audiology and speech language pathology. And then I started an interpreting program at SLIC, and I finished all of my signing classes and then was in the interpreting classes for my first semester. And my husband couldn't do school and work. So, because I already had a degree, I had to drop out. And so then I worked as a speech language technician from 06 to 13. And if you don't know what that is, there's a speech pathologist and then a bachelor's level speech people, and they are supervised by a speech pathologist. Not really, but that's how the state tells us we're supposed to do it. But there's such a high need without professionals that have their masters that we end up doing a lot of the same stuff. So did that for a long time, and then I went up to Utah State. I took a sabbatical for a year just because the LSL program has so many rotations you have to do. I did those up at Utah State, focused on the LSL. Then I was a special ed preschool teacher for 2 years with a variety of disabilities in the Alpine School District, just to get my student teaching done in the early birth to 5 program. And then I went up to USDB in Salt Lake and was an oral rehab specialist for 1 year. I missed Alpine, so I came back. And I've been a hearing specialist since 2017. When I came back, they said, hey, you're not highly qualified, even with a master's in deaf ed. They wanted me to get a K-12 in special ed. So I went back to school again at Weber State and did an 18-month thing in 12 months and got that. And then I thought, well, I already did the special ed work. Why not get the master's and get a special pay bump, because they do a stipend. So I'm back again and got my master's in SPED with a K-12 plus. So that's my background. You would think I like school. I actually hate school. I love learning. I love collaborating. That's one of my things. I hear people say, oh my gosh, you're kind of a jack of all trades. And I'm like, no, I just know people and everything, and I know who to call. So I feel like sometimes when we're working, my strength is not ASL. Obviously, I wasn't educated in that for teaching. And so I think we have to be cautious to assume that these people just know everything about everything. And we need to be humble enough to say, you know, I don't know this, especially to families. That's very comforting to them for you to say, I don't know, but I know someone that does, and I will come back to you and figure it out. Rather than telling them something that's actually not accurate, and then we've got all kinds of problems. So I think the humility piece of our job is really important. Sorry, you can go to the next slide. Okay, So as you guys know, the 3 types of LAS. The other thing that we serve in our district is auditory processing disorder. So a lot of, so I'll refer to that as APD. A lot of our kids that have APD, they're not actually receiving any direct services. They are getting an FM system. And the problem with auditory processing disorder, it falls under the hearing impairment umbrella because it acts the same and mimics a kid with hearing impairment. They have the same kind of problems, listening to noise, complex things, ordering things. Their processing speed is slow, so regurgitating information is always slow, so that wait time is extremely critical when you're working with them. But we set them up typically with an FM system, a personal one. And I'm actually going to go through all my LSL stuff, and then I've got a ton of FM systems, because half of our job is doing FM systems, and the other half is the LSL piece. So we have an audiologist that's deaf, and so she has a lot of things that she can't do, just because listening to the tech and stuff like that. And so we do it out in the field, and we only have one audiologist for the biggest district in the state. Wow. So there's no way that she can be out. And so she actually doesn't even know the FM systems. Terry and I do, and Amy's learning. So, and Terry Goff and Amy Morris are the other 2 in our district. Typically in the past, it was Terry and I doing LSL, and then Amy was doing ASL. There's a little bit more crossover at this point, just because we're trying to figure out.
And you cover 600 kids.
Yeah, Terry and I have 50 schools. Amy covers whatever kids are in whatever school. But our boss has listened to us after we've had conversation after conversation of every single one of these kids is unique. And so what we've been doing is getting the new kid, and then we kind of decide who has the best skills to serve that kid. And that's who they're getting as their teacher. So I wanted to just share, you guys, I'm sure have all seen the speech banana, but it's really critical to, when you're collaborating with speech, to understand where the sounds are compared to the loss. On the Google Drive, I'll also attach one of these so that you guys can shrink it down to the size of your audios that you have. It's really helpful to print it on a transparency. And then when you're talking to parents, you can pop that on the transparency on their actual audiogram and talk through what they will and will not be hearing. So that's why it'll be attached separately, so you can shrink it to fit whatever your district uses for the audiogram. Cool. Okay, you can go to the next one. And this one is the Ling. So the reason why, I know everyone's like, oh yeah, those are sounds, that's what we do. There's ways to do it that are correct. Obviously,
plus the 4 sounds down too.
I still just stick with this because most audiologists, their mapping and stuff is coming off with that information. Unless, are you guys seeing it any different than that, audiologists?
There's a few other sounds they have now, but
are you seeing it on mappings?
not on mapping.
I haven't seen it on mapping. So, and so this is something that if you remember the old cross-stitching hoops that your grandma or you used to use, you use that, put speaker covering inside of it, and you use that and your sound goes through it perfectly. So you sound exactly the same. I had a student that just got implanted this summer that I've been working with, and I would cover my mouth with it and start talking, and then I would drop it down, and she's like, you sound so weird. Can you not use that loop? And I'm like, I'm the exact same. It's that your brain is hearing me, and then your memory is hearing me. So I had to help her understand that it sounds weird because that's the way the implant is getting it into your brain currently, but that'll get better and better with time. But it was interesting to see her say that as a high schooler of like, it's the loop that's making the difference. Obviously wasn't the loop because the sound is going through. This is really critical that you see these 3 sounds. These are the most common that I see errors just because they fall within that same frequency. So whenever I'm working with a kid, I'll do the Ling, and then I will actually message the audiologist that they have. And I will let them know, hey, just let you know the student today had this substitution for that, this substitution for that, or this for that. So the next time you're mapping them, please pay attention to that.
So going back to your, it is the same, it's just that they haven't processed it that way yet?
So the way that the sound is going in through their cochlear implant, it's an electrical stimuli. So they're used to the acoustic wave coming in. So she still has brain memory of what it sounded like when people spoke. And so she is like, her brain is telling her what she's hearing because she's lip reading. And then as soon as I cover up, she's actually only getting the input from the cochlear implant. And so she's like, that sounds weird, which from last year's mappings, when Dr. Bound and Dr. Cordingly came, they talked about how the mapping size is smaller, right? And then with time, they can increase the depth of that mapping, which makes it more human-like, it makes it sound better, more accurate. And so she's hearing the mapping from a month of wear time. And so with more mappings, it'll sound more normal. With her practice, her comprehension will be better. And so to her, she was going based off her memory, if that makes sense.
Would there ever be a situation where they're actually like not hearing that, and you might wanna?
Yeah, so I do my ling with my kids, and I'll do the S a lot of times. So if this isn't bumped up power enough, right, and the electric impulse. So if I do the S and they don't respond, then I let the audiologist know, hey, they're not hearing the S either. And so,
Sorry, it's not, you know.
yeah, so then I pull it down and show them and be like, oh, that's the S, and go from there. But the original time you want to be doing it with your mouth covered, otherwise they're getting too many clues. You want to do each ear separately, because sometimes their one implant is working and the other one is failing, or like the cable's broken or whatever. So you need to verify both pieces of tech are working.
Well, and even with some of your kids that are newly implanted that are unilateral, you're purposely only on a computer so that you
Yeah.
can, you know, only be heard through the FM device.
Yeah, and that's something that most of you probably haven't experienced yet, but over the past 5 years, insurance is paying for single-sided deaf implants right now. And so that is a huge chunk of what I do, is rehabbing those single-sided. I tried to do it in person, but the crazy thing is their good ear has learned to compensate so well. It hears under doors, through walls, like it's insane. So I can't even be at the same place as them. We used a hearing aid to cap it and try to block the sound. It didn't matter. So I have to do it through Zoom with, we use a Phonak touchscreen mic, and we stream it just to the cochlear implant side. If they have a hearing aid on and that's also connected for their classroom, we'll have them disconnect it from that device, or also just take the hearing aid off. And then we typically have a person in there with them, either their parent or a paraeducator. If they're old enough, I can type through the chat, or we just have them unplug the mic and plug it back in. And that helps as well to communicate with them. So you can go to the next one. This will also be attached, so just really pay attention to those sounds and the frequencies where they overlap, because it's possible they just need more impulse. You just scratching?
I'm just scratching my head.
Okay.
I do have a question about speech bananas. I've seen
Yeah.
some that they're different from each other, and I'm like, is there one that's accurate? Because some of them have, you know, the TH and all that at different frequencies. That's what I've seen, and I'm like, I don't know which one to use that's.
So I would assume, depending on the speaker's voice, it probably, just like the link, kind of stretches across multiple frequencies. So I think you just go with one and do your best guess. That's what do you guys think, audiologists?
Yeah, they're high frequency, so just know that they're the higher frequency of the band.
But is there a good speech banana that's the
I
most
have to look, I
accurate?
guess I'd have to look
like?
at the ones that you're looking at.
I've just.
We always use the one that I have on there.
There's some that are different from each other, and I'm like, well, which one's
Yeah.
the one I should use that's, no answer to that? Nobody
Well,
knows?
And honestly, it probably depends on each child. A lot of kids won't have a problem with TH. And so if they have a problem with TH, that's when you would kind of drill down and make sure those frequencies. But again, if you look at their audiogram, if all of it is hitting right here, then they're still hearing all of those sounds. So whether it's over here, it won't matter if it's all above the line. If it's dropping below the line, then it's problematic. And then you want to target in on that frequency. The reason I showed this audiogram, so the right ear down here is low. The left ear is pretty good except for those high frequencies. So if the speech pathologist comes to me and says, hey, I want to work on the F or S, what are your thoughts on this with the child's hearing? I would be like, okay, well, where's the aided audiogram, first of all? I'd like to see that. And then I would make sure that you are on the left side of them so that their left ear is the one that you're working with. I would also suggest they use the touchscreen mic for their therapy so that the child is hearing their sounds and the speech pathologist. And so they could either sit the touchscreen mic on the table and it would be in conference mode so they're hearing both of them well, or if they need it closer, they can pull it up. That just gives really, really clear auditory feedback so that they can correct it through the auditory loop. So we can go to the next one. Okay, this one again, all of the listening is up here and then it drops down. So that's just another picture of an audiogram and the same hearing issues. Go ahead. Okay, this one is from a mapping audiologist. And I asked all these parents, so if a name pops up, I have parent approval. But this one's just saying CI because it's not right and left. That was just the sound fields. And this student is falling right in that 20 to 25 range, which is beautiful for a CI. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so the thing I wanted to point out here, these are probably typically things that you guys are not seeing as deaf educators. I'm a nerd, I love the tech piece, and I want to make sure I'm meeting the kids' needs. So whenever a kid gets mapped, I'm messaging Danzy, Bound, or accordingly typically, or Cash up in Logan. And I say, hey, did you map this kid recently? Or when is your next mapping? Oh, November. Okay, please send me the latest audio and the mapping report. The ones from Peak look like this. The ones from Cash look a little bit different, but these are really reader friendly. They're easy to read and understand. The main things I'm looking at, so they're data logging, 11.6 hours and 12.1 hours. 12 to 16 hours is what we want. If that is 3-4 hours, that's terrible. Their comprehension is going to be terrible. It doesn't matter if I work with that kid 8 hours a day, it's still going to be terrible because they have to have the tech on. I like to compare it to a retainer because some kids are like, well, I just took the weekend off. It's not a big deal. And I'm like, take 2 days off of your retainer and try to cram that baby on. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to be what you like. And that's how it is with cochlear implants. I think a lot of times we're told that it doesn't matter. It does. I've had audiologists that tell me, and I'm sorry, audiologists, if I'm wrong, correct me, please. But I've had audiologists tell me that 1 day off of not wearing it because it broke or whatever, and the kids will be like, I'm hearing these weird squeaking noises. I don't know what's going on. That's 1 day of not wearing their implant. And we have kids that take the whole week off, take a month off, their tech is broken, they don't set it in. That's super problematic. If their tech is broken, it has to go in, has to be overnighted, it has to be fast turnaround. So look at that data logging, make sure it's that high. If it's not, have those difficult conversations with your parents. I have a parent right now that there's a middle schooler, single-sided deafness, so he can hear with his good ear, so he doesn't feel the need to wear it on the weekend. And I'm like, we can keep doing the therapy, he's not benefiting from it. Until his wear time is up at least to 10 hours a day over the whole week, he's not gonna benefit from this. It's a waste of his time coming down. So that's critical. You can also see the series of the primary processor, the backup processor. Every kid should have a primary and backup. So when they go to mappings, remind them, take your backups so that if anything happens, they're already mapped. They don't have to schedule another appointment, which takes forever sometimes to get into the audiologist. The other thing I want to point out right here, so these are pre-op scores before they got their cochlear implants, post-op scores after the cochlear implants. So you got your right side, she had 56 on words and 44% on the AZ bio score. So the AV bio score are sentences. And so they have to feed back the entire sentence correct. Grammatical structure, everything. Am I correct on that? Okay. The CNC words, there's different lists, so you'll always see the specificity of which list they use, just so they can compare it back to past programs. Her post-op was 100% on word level, 100% AZ bio score. This is a student, went deaf, got implanted immediately. We did therapy 4 times last year. She's at 100% accuracy. This one, she just got implanted a month ago. Her AZ bio score was 34%. 1 month of wearing without any therapy, 97% accuracy on her AZ bio score. So again, quick implantation. These are the numbers we are seeing with the students I serve. And I haven't worked with her yet this year. And she's already at 97%. Okay, I think you're good. Okay, so now I want to show you guys the same 20, 25 range, right, that we're in, even 15 on some of these. So you would look at this audiogram and you would say, she's just as good as the other kid, right? Not true. So let's, right here, you know, she's wearing the cochlear brand, Nucleus 7. Her magnet strength is a 3. If a kid has a magnet falling off all the time, the audiologist can switch that out for a stronger strength. If it's hurting them, they can do a smaller, easier, lighter strength, okay? So if kids are ever complaining about discomfort, please reach out to your audiologist. They know how to make it better instead of having the kid suffer or just say, oh, just take it off. That's not the answer. Like, that doesn't benefit kids. So she's got N7s on both sides. Nucleus had a 5.6. That was an older version. They used a different receiver on them for a microphone. The N7 8 are the exact same. They look the same. They're newer, so there's other pieces there, but if you look at them, you won't be able to tell the difference from a deaf ed teacher, I don't think. I won't be able to tell the difference. Okay, besides the timeline of when they got it. So here we look at her dates. This is a report from Cash, and we can kind of see right ear, left ear. She's 10 hours, 9.7, 10.2 hours. There was an issue with her processor for that time. Then I go and look at the Ling 6, right? And she is hearing all of her Ling 6. So her ability to hear is good, but look at her comprehension. She's at 48% for words and 68% for sounds. That's problematic, right? Like, if she's only hearing 48% of words on word level, meaning not in conversational speech, she is not going to do well in the classroom. So this is a student that has a full-time interpreter. She was in the LSL ASL split in Salt Lake, returned back to us, and mom wanted her mainstreamed, but I was very adamant when mom came down, she is not to be in a class without an interpreter. So a lot of times I think people look at me and they think I'm anti-ASL. I'm not. If a student needs it, I am their best advocate to get them what they need. But if they don't need it, I'm also not going to support that. So this is a student, has a full-time interpreter, and she's doing well. The student is not fluent in sign, but has enough signs that she can get the help and kind of guided to where she needs to be. And it gives her that one-on-one support to make sure she's not totally lost. So go to the next one. Okay. Okay, this one, this is another student that her wear time is 13 hours. This is a 4th grader. She's got the N7s as well. Her backups are her Kanzos. So the Kanzo is the one that's off the ear. The nucleus for the cochlear brand is on ear. And her doesn't have pre-op, but her post-op, she's 99% on her AZ bio score. And 92 and 96, I think, on her phonemes and words. So she's got a little bit of growth she can have, but still she's thriving in the classroom and doing really well. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, so our hearing age, I think sometimes we get caught up with this of this child is 5, they have a big body, they should function well, they should understand what I'm saying to them. We cannot look at a child at their chronological age. So it's not based on chronological age, not cognitive. It is due to the date they're implanted or activated or appropriately fit with hearing tech. So if the child has not had any hearing tech, has had a hearing loss for 2 years, then gets hearing aids and all of a sudden can hear, they're likely functioning on that newborn to 6 months level of language. Because 90% of what we're learning as a child is through incidental hearing of overhearing adult conversations. So if you're directly speaking to them, they've gotten 10% compared to the other 100% that the other kids have gotten. So it's really, really bad. Switch that out. Okay. So just as a few examples, a 5-year-old implanted at 3 years, 2 months. They have a hearing age of 1 year, 10 months. So if you're looking at the developmental norms of language, that's probably where you should be starting to make sure that they've got the backfilling filled before you go on to talking to them at a 5-year-old level. This is very uncomfortable sometimes for us because we're like, no, they've got to know more. And because kids are bobbleheads and they just say, we feel uncomfortable making them prove it. But I'm a prover teacher and I'm just like, oh yeah, you know that? All right, tell me about it. And they're like, oh, dang it, she caught me again. So it's really critical that we make sure it's all there, and then we can have more success moving forward. That's not that they can't make 2 years of progress in a year, because they absolutely can. I've seen kids make 3 years progress in a year. If it's a kid that comes through our assessment center and they're 4 years old and they're at a 1 year, 10 month, you better believe I'm sending them to the program here. Because we cannot give them 7 hours of LSL interventions in our district. It's not what any district offers. So I'm, again, a big advocate for put them where they need to be. It's not a pride contest of who can give what. It's do what's best for the child. So 6-year-old implanted at 5, they have a 9-month-old hearing age. That does not mean that their signing is not above that, right? Like if they've been signing, then they could have a signing language a lot higher developmental norms for that. But on the LSL side, they're still going to struggle discriminating and understanding things. Child 4 years, 6 months, implanted at 1 year, 6 months, they have a 3 year. So that 1.5 year gap is a lot easier to close than the other two before. Early hearing and listening access is critical in closing the listening gap.
Sorry, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So, most of these kids are wearing tech before they get CIs. How does that equate to their hearing age?
So all kids have to go 6 months wearing a hearing aid before they'll even look at CIs, correct? I think
There may be some exceptions now, but generally.
they typically, generally speaking, if it's a second implant, they don't make them do 6 months.
Yeah.
If it's the first implant, like a baby, they typically put hearing aids on them for 6 months. If they're not getting any access from that, then that's not a hearing aid added to their time that they're implanted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like,
So-
if I have a 4th grader and she wants to go and get implanted, she's been wearing her hearing aids her whole life, how would that like impact her hearing aids?
So has she been hearing well with her hearing aids up to that point? Then she would be her normal age.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So that's why I was saying appropriately fitted, right? Like if she wears hearing aids and then switches out to CIs, that's what that one student did. She's in middle school. Yeah, middle school. Sorry, this is one of Terry's kids that I'm helping with. And so she didn't have a hearing gap because from when she was born until then, she had hearing aids and then got the CIs right away. Sorry, does that clarify? Okay.
It was literally just like overnight, like, I can't hear you because my.
Yeah, and I have another student that every time she dove in a pool, her hearing would go out on one side, and then she'd go get a steroid, and then she'd dive again, and then it'd go out again, and 3 times it went out, and it never came back again. And so immediately after, it was like, we got to get the implant. Her younger brother is deaf, so the mom already knew the process, so it was really fast. And then now the other ear is doing the same thing, but we felt this extreme demand we got to get this ear done and ready. And then her brain is used to hearing with CI, so the second implant process is a lot faster too. Yes.
So when you were showing those comparisons of the chronological age and hearing age, I just got thinking maybe that would be a good tool to help parents or our students understand how much they need to wear them, because each time you're not wearing them, we're going to add on to that age, and it's going to make you look.
Struggle. It's going to make you struggle. And that's why I tell my students all the time, you're making it harder on yourself. Like, if you want to be in the spoken world, right? Like, what is your goal? What is your family's goal? That's what it is. So I'm not saying like you can't do ASL. I'm saying this is what the parents want. This is what the kid wants. If you want this, then you have to do the work. You have to wear the tech. You have to go to the audiologist for regular programming. You have to do this. So I have a student in that was a Chinese orphan, moved to California, so implanted at 6, was left with multiply retarded children, super severe kids, multi-disabled, excuse me, I added 2 things together. Didn't get implanted till 6. Then he didn't wear the tech consistently, and it was Medell, and their tech lasts 6 hours a day. So he was only getting 1/3 of the hearing in a year that anyone with other tech would be getting. Does that make sense? So even if he didn't have interventions, he was only getting 1/3 of a year listening per year. Then he came to America at 9, got a second implant, same brand, because they wanted to keep it the same. And that was only going for 6 hours a day. So again, the student couldn't function well enough. He was learning sign language with an interpreter, and he didn't know any English, and had a hearing age of like a 1-year-old in 4th grade. It has been a mess. And so it took us because he couldn't communicate effectively, he couldn't tell us they were dying. The interpreters aren't used to tech, so they don't look at the tech to see if it's working, right? And so we've had to do a lot of like collaborating as a team to say, please pay attention to their blinky light. Like, let us know. We don't expect you to fix it, but you've got to let us know if you see something not working so we can fix it. So as we've collaborated, we figured that out, that it was dying after 6 hours. And then parents wouldn't pay for batteries. So I messaged Cash, I messaged Brittany, and messaged Sarah, and I said, who's got extra batteries? Has anyone had a client that's died, that's donated something? Please send them my way. And so Cash had some, sent them down to me, and a charger. And we had to provide batteries and charger at the school for the past 3 years. And he needed new tech 2 years ago, and it wasn't until this year he got new implants. So there are times, guys, the tech is so freaking frustrating. And certain brands do not work well, and it's hard, and you have to wrestle their tech, and you gotta help parents understand the benefit and not having it, and the cause and effect of what's gonna be their outcome, right? Like, but that's where I take that piece of our job seriously, because they just don't understand.
That is where I will be completely blatant. If I'm talking to the mom, I have the feminine hygiene talk, and I say, do you want the always or the pearl? Do you want, Kotex, or do you want Western Family? And that's how I explain cochlear implants to parents. And so many times, and then or I do cereals with that. Like, do you want Kellogg's?
I kind of missed that. I get it, but I missed
Or again,
it.
you want Western Family? What do you want on a Saturday morning? And I have moms who, when I looked and I saw these cute stickers on Etsy, what would you want to be wearing? What is gonna leak? What's gonna work? And I'm totally honest with parents with that. And I mean, most moms are like, but I'm like, I don't care if I gross out a principal, moms get it. When I explain it that way, they're like, I'm going with cochlear. Good job.
Like, just please stop talking, I'll get that one.
Right? I'm really blunt. Like, I am all about sign language, but if your kid is gonna benefit from a cochlear implant, make it worth your kid's while and make it worth your while to have the tech that's gonna give them the benefit that they need.
And that's another reason why doing the Ling is so critical. So Advanced Bionics, they have a processor, an internal component that is failing. So if you have a kid wearing AB, it's super important for you guys to be doing that Ling 6, because if you're not, and they only see their audiologist once a year, that kid could go off a poor map for a year and not get service. And that's really problematic. So I had another parent I tried to convince to go cochlear because the other child had AB, and every day something was broken because the cables break really easily on AB for some reason. Their battery life is good, but their cables break. And so the kid was on and off all day long for 3 years before someone noticed it. And so her language is extremely delayed. So they decided to go with that with AB again with the second child so they could interchange parts, and now they have two devices that didn't work. And then her internal component failed, and she had to get explanted and re-implanted with her newer one, and that's working now, and she's doing extremely well. But that's a scary thing to have to get explanted. It's scary enough to do it once, but then to having to do it twice because the internal parts fail, that's problematic. So that's what we're seeing with Advanced Bionics. So please pay attention to that. See what the kids' tech is. If it's Medell and they've got the rechargeable batteries and it's the old ones, they do not last longer than 6. That's a brand new one, lasts 6 hours a day. So know that your kid's tech is probably gonna die after that. Advanced Bionics, you can do a listening check. You can't hear if the cable's broken. So make sure with the kid, are you hearing like is it going on and off? Clarify, verify things are working properly that we can't physically check. We can have them keep an extra cable in their backpack and have it switched out. They can have extra batteries in their backpack. There's things we can do to prep parents so that they can have success in the schools. This is one of my favorite auditory learning hierarchies. So it's younger age to higher, and then you move this way. Sometimes you might be working on this and starting this next area, and that's great, but it just works through this. There's a better copy that I've attached as well, so you can see that. But this is how I end up working through the hierarchy to target their skills based off developmental norms. So will you click on the next link? So this, I'm just gonna show you guys this quickly, but the lower level is sound awareness and detection, then we go discrimination, imitation, identification, and comprehension. So you're making them give more back each time we go back. Sorry, and then click on that link.
Sorry.
So you guys can have access to this too. We scroll up a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, so with this, within a year, a student will respond to sound by blinking, looking around, crying, or smiling with 80% accuracy over 30 data collection days. This is the state standard that goes along with it. These are ideas of how to serve that.
This is a great resource that we've had up on the.
So Terry and I created these together for a summer collaboration,
Say Alicen.
and I still use it. Every time I write an IEP, I search the word that I want to do, grab the goal, grab the target, do it, copy, paste, IEP's done. It's easy. And then it's very standardized. So if I send a kid to Terry's area or she sends a kid to my area, we know how to work on the same goal. And so it's just helping to keep it really good. That would be great too if, I'm not saying you guys need to do this, but maybe in your district, it would help you guys to do a very standardized goal that helps. And sometimes there's goals that are really funky that you're like, I just need to work on this and this is weird for this one kid, and create the new goal. But you can either spend an hour on IEP or 15 minutes. So it makes up more time for you to plan lessons. Okay, can you go down a lot further? I want to get a goal that's more.
Go down farther.
Yeah,
Sorry.
keep scrolling for a little while. Okay, stop right there. So within a year, a student will follow 4-step directions. So it goes 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, and that's a hierarchy as well within each category. So we did this to match up with that last chart that you saw. So we kind of just picked up how we would actually serve that or create that goal. Okay, we can go to the next slide.
It's all in the.
Yeah, it's all in this. Gabby, I'll send this to you right after this slide, so.
Okay, so the students that I serve personally, students with a CI that have low comprehension scores on their AZ bio. That was the sentence test that the audiologist is doing in the booth. Students that have not had access to information due to poor wear time or failure of internal components like AB, like we talked about. Late implanted students. So that one that you saw that her audio was really good, 15, 25 range, but her comprehension was 40. She wasn't implanted till she was 4. And so she did not have access to sound until she was 4. And now she is in 5th grade and has that low comprehension score. So I'm working with her 3 days a week. Newly implanted for second sight, meaning they have a hearing aid and a CI, and the hearing aid is not working anymore, and so they get the CI on the second. And we serve kids 3 to 22. So we work with kids from preschool all the way up to our severe schools that have post-secondary. Okay. Okay, so if you want to click on that. So again, this is the same hierarchy, and this is kind of, so I'm going to have you kind of scroll as I'm talking.
Okay.
Is that okay? So this is how I would start working on it. You can stop for a second, sorry. So I would have these sounds, and I would play an airplane sound, and I just sit there and look off and just wait, and the child would say, oh, I hear something. And so I'm like, okay, awesome, plus. And then I would play a boat. Oh, I hear something. Okay, I don't expect them to know what they heard. I just need them to identify something came into my ear and I heard it. Some of our students, they do not understand this as hearing. So I'll say, did you feel a tickle? Did you feel a vibration on your head? Did you feel anything? And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I did feel something. It's like, okay, so when you feel that tickle, just let me know you heard it, and that helps me know. So then I can go, ruining my groove, bro.
Sorry, dude.
Do you have like a resource for getting your sounds, a good online or whatever?
So I can add that to my stuff, but I just use an environmental sound. The one thing that I have a hard time with over Zoom, sometimes it cuts out if there's any sound on their end. And so I've actually been searching for longer sound bites just to give them a little bit longer access to it. But again, it's that pausing, and you're not looking down when you push the button. You have to be really, really good that you're not cueing them. So that's really critical. You could Google environmental sounds, and then there was actually a spot I found them. I can add that later on the thing as well. But it had longer sound bites, and you could do a week free. And so I downloaded all the ones I wanted in the week, and then I canceled my membership.
Did you add that
But
for sure?
yeah, I can add it. And so then this tells us, she's not hearing the high frequency sound of kids playing at the pool, but the police car horn and those mid frequencies, she was feeling that for sure. And so that helps me understand kind of the frequencies that she's hearing within. And we want to make sure that she's hearing that whole spectrum of sounds. And then of course you're always doing the Link 6, and then you keep going down. Okay, so then we go here, and then I would say, and every time I say that, I'd have the adult in the room saying, oh, that was an airplane. Did you hear it going past, or did you hear the train, the clicking of the tracks, the click, 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 click. And so in person, in their good ear, they're getting that feedback. And so then I'll say, okay, did you hear a dog barking or a train? Very different sounds. And then they have to identify having those 2 words of which one they heard. And then that helps them to be like, oh, I heard the ticking, or I felt the tick, 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 tick on my head. So that was a train. And then that verification process for them is very empowering. And they get the smile on their face and I think I heard that. That's so cool. And so then it just builds harder and harder. So go ahead and scroll. Go ahead. And then we go here and I play the sound and they have to tell me what they heard. So again, they've had multiple exposures to this exact same sound and the rhythm of it, the intensity, all of that, the frequency range, and then they're identifying what they heard. Okay, go ahead down. And then, sorry, go back up one more time. Then I'll do words that are syllabically different. So I'll do alligator and owl, so they have to feel whether it was like boom, 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 or boom. And so then they're identifying word level. Go ahead down. And then I go into minimal pairs. So these are lists. I use a lot of Super Duper stuff. Super Duper Publications is a company that does a lot of speech things, but they do hearing things as well. And so these are from their fun decks is what they call them. And so I went through and created these Google Docs. The reason I do this, my para takes data while I'm working with students. So she will cut and paste this into our DS Medicaid that we send in. And then she puts a plus or minus by whichever one I said and whether they got it correctly. So I created these docs so it's super easy for her to take data during the session. The other benefit of having her take my data is I can totally engage with the child and we just have a fun time and we work hard and it's very reinforcing. And we can go very quickly through activities as well. So you've got zoo and Sue. So this is a voicing, bow and bows. You've got cluster reduction, sour shower. Is that one fricative? Can you go up a little bit? Fronting, sorry. Fronting, stridency deletion. And then these are, I went through and up at Utah State, Sarah was up there, whom I worked with at USDB, and she was like, there's this amazing new assessment book that we use with all of our students. And so we went through and we found all the most common, most frequent young kid phrases that were said. And so then I start to introduce these phrases. I'll show them the first 5. They have to identify which one they heard. Again, by syllables, or if they heard one of the words, they'll identify which one they heard. And then I'll have the list of 10 showing, and then I'll have a list of 20. We have 4 lists of these, and so I rotate through every single to a new one, so they can't just memorize what list it is. And then I won't show them any of them, and I'll say the sentence or short term or short phrase, and then they'll kick it back to me. And again, we just do plus or minus, and then we will type in what they said, almost like a language sample, just to say, oh, they misspelled, they said sell, or whatever it may be. Okay, scroll again. Keep going. These are just there's multiple processes. And then that's just kind of a data collection of like which one we chose and the plus. Okay, keep going.
So your aide is with you in that therapy session?
Yeah, she's either over Zoom. Like sometimes we are split so thin with the amount of stuff and kids we have. And so she might be at another class over Zoom and I might be at a different school and my students at a different school, but we're all in the same Zoom session. She can just collect data as we go. Okay, keep going. Going.
That's
This one.
your
Okay.
aid, or is it any aid?
It's my para. Yeah, Terry and I each have a para. Amy has a para assigned to us. You want a para?
Yeah.
Girlfriend, you don't get a para.
They're doing
I
that
know.
instead of.
We're not Oprah. We're not giving you a para.
Yeah.
Okay.
20-hour para to replace getting a 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so these again go with the phonological processes. This is called silly sets, and it has a picture. And on half the picture, it has, we saw an ape at the zoo. And then the other picture says, we saw an A at the zoo. So you'd have like a zoo picture, and you have an A on one side and an ape on the other side. And so then we start introducing them to a full sentence. So the comprehension level and the difficulty drastically rises once you start doing that. And my kids that are ready, getting close to being done with me, they will repeat back these entire sentences for all 9 sets. They can repeat back the entire sentence with no visual stimulus, no support with my mouth, nothing like that. Okay. Scroll down, please.
I'm trying, okay.
This is the silly sets, so that's what it looks like. So I have a pet lizard or I have a pet wizard. So they're so close together. It is so hard for kids to hear it. It really makes their brain think really hard. Okay, go ahead and go up. I've been using these a lot with my students, understanding sentences. So I would read facing me, not let them see it. Tom eats the tallest ice cream cone, and then I would cover it up, and they have to pick which one it is. And then I'd have them actually repeat back the full sentence to me as well. So I want to know, did they understand it? And then I want to know, did they hear all of it perfectly? And those are two different tasks, so we collect data differently on each of those. Okay, go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How do you do that over Zoom? Do you just show the card, or do you have it on the screen? Or
Yeah, I would just show the
stuff?
card. Yeah. The other thing you could do, if you really wanted to spend the time, you could like black out that and then have them scanned in. So a lot of times with all of this stuff, I have everything digitally compiled in my digital therapy drive. So no matter where I am, that's our other issue. We have so much stuff we have to do different for every single kid. Our cars are filled with our crap. And so anything I can digitize, I do, just because then it's not, oh my gosh, my kid took that bag out of the car, or this happened. I always have everything on me that I need. This is another barrier game. So these pictures are on both sides of the barrier. And so I would tell the kid, I'm going to put the bench under the fire. And so I want to know, when I flip their barrier over, did they hear the bench, and did they put it under the fire? So again, it's that comprehension piece that's so critical. They may not be able to repeat back the full sentence, but we need our kids getting concepts so that they're grasping what's happening in the classroom, and then they'll develop those in-between pieces with time and practice. This is another example. You've got a full sentence, and then you've got comprehension WH questions that you can use. These are just ideas, guys. You can do whatever you want. This is another really good book. It just has more complex auditory information. Go ahead and scroll up again. This is an example. So you've got your short paragraph, and then you've got comprehension questions. So I'm just expanding the information that I'm giving them each time, as like you would if a smaller kid versus a bigger kid. But I still want to know that that comprehension is there, because without the comprehension, it doesn't matter how much info I'm vomiting on them. That's not benefiting them. Okay. This is one that you can kind of do on a fun day, but it still gives you opportunities. You can have them create their own sentences. There's a lot of value in having them give you information. You start to see those language gaps. So even if what they're giving you isn't perfect, make note of it and then target those grammatical syntax issues, especially kids that are changing from more ASL to spoken. There's a lot of grammatical stuff that they have to change because it's just different. Let's go up again. Okay, this is another one, just open talk, talking about different things, getting that conversation going, and really listening of whether they're responding appropriately to know that they comprehended everything you said. Go up again. Same thing, mom bought a fish, it's so big that, and then you have them give you more information about it, or you tell them something and have them fill out. Go ahead and go up again. This is a student that struggled with WH questions, and so we played Guess the One. And so I would pick Santa Claus, and she would say, did you pick the one that is a number? No, I did not pick the 17, that's a number. Did you pick the purple boat? No, I did not pick the purple boat that swims underwater, right? Like adding that language and bombarding them with the language. This is your old student, and she's doing phenomenal at it. She formulates all of her questions. Did you pick the pig that saves money? You know, so this is another super duper book. You could use anything. You could use pictures of whatever and just scan them in. You can even do a magazine picture that's got lots of stuff and then ask questions about that. Scroll up again. This is an example. Did you pick number 17? No, I did not pick the number 17. Always expand the language. Always, always, always add more. They can handle it. They need it. They need to develop language. Go ahead.
You're dead. I think.
Oh, sorry.
It's not scrolling.
Go back to the PowerPoint. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Okay, skip to the next one. Okay, this is an example. Always, 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 if you can, do a listening activity at the end of your lesson. So this is just an example of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So you read it together, you talk through all that vocabulary. At the end of the lesson, have these pictures cut out and say, give me the bed that was too soft, or give me the bed that was just right, or what kind of porridge was Daddy's, or you can do auditory closure where you give them, Daddy's porridge was not cold, it was, and then let them fill in the gap. Whatever level the kid may be at, you can always use a book to develop that language. And that's one of those skills that we all should be able to grab any book and help kids work on whatever they need to from a book. We have to be creative sometimes, but we can always do it. Okay, keys to success. Sooner the student is aided. They need to be programmed 3, 6, or 12 months, depending on how long they've had it, or a time between 12 and 16 hours. Using the LSL strategies with their child all the time. Completing therapy with a qualified LSL professional, and then willingness to pay for your tech. Sometimes tech breaks, it's super expensive. Sometimes parents can't afford that. Work with audiologists, figure out what you can do. There's some grants out there, there's some ways to get it going. So just be a willing participant that's helping. Go ahead to the next one. Okay, there's inherent differences between hearing and listening and understanding. Hearing means that you're aware of presence. Listening is active activity where you put forth some work to register the information. Understanding is the next step. While you may be hearing and listening, you may not understand the message. In order to understand, you have to have a sufficient language and knowledge foundation to be able to follow what is said. So understanding is our goal. I have students that can hear very well, they can regurgitate, they have no idea what they heard. So it's like, and so whenever they get to a word they don't quite know, it gets really funky in their speech because they just don't want you to know that they really didn't understand it. And then we take that time and talk about that vocabulary word. Go to the next one. Okay. You guys can read through these later, but basically just providing opportunities, exploring, using language-rich, motivating activities. Go to the next one. Okay, this was a study. I did my whole thesis project on this. So basically they coded, the Lena is a recording device that speech uses to get quality of words, length of words, all of that. They analyzed 30,000 pages of transcripts, and they did professional families, working families, and welfare families. Go ahead to the next one. They measured the adults, the conversational turns, and the language skills and cognitive abilities. Go ahead. So they were all in the same area. What they found is children that had talkative parents that use language-rich talk versus taciturn, stop doing that, knock it off, don't touch your brother. There was a 30 million word gap between the two kids by the age of 4, after 4 years. And the best indicator of their success in their next future education was the language. So if they had good language, they were successful. Okay, go ahead. Okay, these are examples of ways we can enrich language while we're talking. Go down. These are more, go ahead. So I've added a few of these just so you can, this one has an awesome link that actually has examples of how to do that. So if you want to spend a month and focus on the auditory closure of Mary had a little, and have them fill it in, or auditory first, meaning give it to them auditory. If you need to sign, then auditory second, that's the auditory sandwich. Expectant look like, that's a good one to stare at them. They get really uncomfortable and then they give you what you want. So wait time is probably the hardest thing I struggled with in grad school, and now I can wait a kid out for like a minute. And I just sit there and wait, and then they're like, gosh, dang it, she's doing it again. And then they'll give me what I want. So if you want to spend more time searching those are the most commonly used LSL strategies. Go to the next one. And that has a link as well. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, the other half of our job is FM systems. Adam, I'm gonna be fast. I'm sorry. Okay, go. Go back for just a second. So we ID students with technology. We start the referral process for the 504. We ID FM systems that work with the technology, set up FM systems, monitor, troubleshoot hearing aids, troubleshoot CIs, replace hearing aid tubes, provide teachers, educators training. We provide listening checks with hearing aids and CIs, listen to hearing aids and CIs for distortions, and collaborate with our SLPs and AUDs, meaning a lot of times we're collaborating outside the district. Our audiologist doesn't do anything with CIs, so we are always collaborating with outside audiologists. And then we contact parents when we have concerns, requests, and education, or if they need to go in for new mapping, whatever, we're constantly texting parents. Go ahead. Okay, what we see, we have behind the ears, we have bone anchored hearing aids. So I think it's really important that you guys know what the kid is wearing. So we've got Bajas from Cochlear brand Ossia, which is Cochlear brand, but it's the magnetic one. So the Baja snaps on, the Ossia is magnetic. If you flip it over, it says Ossia. That will tell you it's not a cochlear implant, it's a bone anchor device that's implanted under the skin. Aponto is Oticon's brand of the Baja. They came up with it second, so they didn't get Baja as their name. That's another Post one. And here is Medell, and it's a sticker, and I don't.
They're awful.
They're awful. So cochlear implants, Cochlear America has Nucleus 6, 7, and 8. That's what you'll see. The Kanzo 1 and 2. Advanced Bionics has Naida as their older version. They actually partner with Phonak, so Marvel is their new one that allows it to be compatible with Phonak microphones. Medell has the Sonnet, which is on the ear. Rondo is the magnet. That's it. Okay. Okay, will you click on this really fast? I'm gonna fly through this, guys, but I just want you to know what resources are in here. So I went through and created a write-up of every single type of tech that that Cochlear Americas has, and the receiver that works with it with the Phonak mics, because we use Phonak. Okay, so sorry, can you go back up one more second?
This is our workaholic, look what I did this summer.
I know. So the N5 and 6, the way you can tell is it has this little metal clip here. You have to use your finger, pop it up, pop in the receiver, snap down the metal clip. If you don't do that, it'll get lost in the wood chips, and it's a $950 piece. So snap that puppy down. Also, you'll see the holes. That's how you know the backside. So that is an R14 receiver. This is the new 7.8 that you'll see. That's an R20 receiver, and it twists. So cochlear twists. That's how it attaches. This is your listening device that allows you to listen to that cochlear implant. Can you scroll up again? This is your listening device that allows you to listen to that cochlear implant. Okay? Okay, Kanzo 2, this is the new version you're gonna see. You have to spell on and off. So to turn it on, O-N, to turn it off, O-F-F. You have to have it cupped in your hand because the slap doesn't work.
The cupping is essential.
It's essential for it to work. So Kanzo 2, that's what you're gonna see coming out if kids wear Kanzos. The only thing that works with the Kanzo is a mini mic. You cannot do any Phonak. The Kanzo 1, this little thing here, you pull down and your batteries are in there. This, the first time you pair it with a mini mic, you have to use a remote because there's no button to hold. This one pairs with a mini mic only, and you have to hold that button 3 seconds every single time you turn on the mini mic. Every time you change out the batteries, every time it gets turned on, it has to be turned on with a 3 button. And you'll hear a bring, and that means it's connected. Okay, go ahead. Okay, this is your Baja. This only works with a mini mic. You'll see the soft band or the post, which is a permanent. This is your listening post. This allows us to listen for distortions. You just have to make sure both your ears are covered and you're holding it back on your mastoid bone. This is another one that we rarely see, but I did see one kid with that at one point. This little button right here, to start the streaming from the mini mic, 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, you put your head close, bring, you know it's paired, okay? If you're programmed with a home mic and a school mic, then this might be on program too. If so, you do it twice. 1, 2, 3, let go, 1, 2, 3. And you'll hear the bling, and you're good. So you kind of have to figure that out. Okay, next one is the Ossia. See how it looks kind of like the Kanzo? Flip it different. And this is the internal component that's implanted, okay? This button, 3 seconds, because it's only the mini mic. Okay, next one. That's your mini mic. You got your volume up, down, your mute button, your power button. This is your little white button that you pair it with. And these are the remotes that you'll sometimes see with Cochlear. There's also a little bit bigger version. But whenever you want to start streaming it, if their buttons on their devices are not activated, you have to use the remote. To use the remote, you have to stick the magnet on the back, open the battery, close the battery. It will pair with your remote, and then you can use your remote. Okay, that's with Medel and Cochlear. Okay, is that the last one on that one?
Yeah, that's last.
Okay, we go back to the other one. Okay, Advanced Bionics. Okay, Naida, flat bottom. It's very square. If you want to put the R17 on it, this little receiver, they have to have a special battery that has a slider. So they have to buy a special battery, not the regular one, slide on that R17. This is your listening piece, so you'll, male and female, slide it. So Advanced Bionics is always sliding. If the device slides, it's AV, okay? And then you plug your headphone jack in there, and that allows you to listen to their microphones to listen for distortions. Okay, go back up. This is their new Marvel series. They don't like you getting stuff for free, so they created a new attachment. So this is blue inside. So if it's a blue listening one, you got blue inside. If it's gray, you got gray inside. That's how you know which listening to work with. This is a Roger X. They're the tiny little microlinks we used to use. This, with this installer, we put that in, turn it on, put that on. This installs this tech onto that device. So every day, they just turn on their mic and it auto connects. Okay, so because they're friends, they play nice. Okay, is that last one?
Yeah.
Put in the last one. Sorry, Adam, I'm really trying to hurry. Medel. Okay, this is how you listen to Medel's tech. It's a crap show, so maybe send that to your audiologist.
You get a huge red box.
You have to presume good intention.
No, it's really hard. Like, I'm not joking. You have to attach this in there and that in there, and then you have to pair their tech to the remote, and then you have to push the streaming button on the remote for it to start sounding. It's really tricky. So, anyways, that's the hardest CI to connect with to listen to. And you probably don't have that anyways. Their rondo is off the ear, and then that's their sonic.
Better than having nothing though?
It is, yeah, you can, but, and you might be able to get an agreement with them that they can send you it so you can listen to their tech, which is great. They can buy a sleeve that they can put the Roger X in it. That's what their sleeve looks like. This bottom part is the receiver. So that's an R21. So just sliding and switching the sleeve is how your receiver goes on that one. Okay, go ahead. This is their audio link. The only thing that works with the Rondo is the audio link. This is a speech thing, and you put it on the magnet of the device and speak, and if it flickers at the same rate that you're talking, then it's picking up sound, but you can't tell if it's distorted or not. And then that's their bone bridge, their bone anchor device. Okay, next one. Oh, sorry, you don't have to do those. Those are just professional for Oticon and Phonak. So those are the two Pete's brands you'll see with hearing aids are Phonak and Oticon. Go ahead to the next one.
This one?
No, sorry, the next slide. I'm sorry.
Next slide. There we go.
Okay, these are the microphones we use. Go ahead to the next slide, and the receivers. Okay, quick there for a sec. This is all the Phonak mics we use. Touchscreen, Roger on and in, Roger pen, Roger select, Roger clip-on mic. Those are the Phonak ones, and then we've got the EduMic and the Connect Clip. Those connect with Oticon. So if it's an older Oticon, you might be able to connect with this, or you have to have an attachment, and you can use Phonak. The new Open Play, you use the EduMic. The mini mic is the other one we use from Cochlear, and then Audio Link if the kid has it themselves. We haven't bought any of these. Okay, back. Phonak Roger receivers. That has every receiver with their picture. These are audio shoes that connect. So this would go with Phonak, the Clear, or Oticon. That's how you attach an X to that device. And then we also use the Roger Focus. We use these for our kids with APD or a kid with single-sided deafness. We'll put it in their good ear, or a child with a mild loss that just needs a little bump but doesn't really benefit from hearing aids quite yet. And then the Roger loops we rarely use. Okay, go back and do this. Oh, sorry. That just has all of them. Yeah, you're good. That's all of them. And then mics and receivers. That one. So this is just a write-up of what goes with what and why we would use it with a student. We'll switch out. I'm almost there. Okay, Oticon has EduMic and Connect Clip. Mini mic is for the Cochlear Resound. Resound is actually who created the mini mic. They call it a multi-mic. Cochlear puts their sticker on it and charges an extra $150. So we just buy them from Resound. And then you can always use classroom systems or Red Cap, which is like it's a speaker that has really good quality and dispersion. Okay, next one. Okay, go ahead. Okay, we have kids both on IEPs and 504s. Kids that need direct services, they go on an IEP. Kids that just need FM have a 504. If they have tech, they're on both if they have an IEP and 504. Terry and I both have about 250 kids we're tracking. I've got 121 kids with FM systems and about 10 that I see direct services. So that kind of gives you an idea. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why would you have a 504 and an IEP?
Our district makes us do it because 504 and IEP SPED, they fight over money. So if 504 is going to pay for it, they have to have a 504. So 504 pays.
Special ed, but a lot of our pays, just that, if they're special ed, an IEP, special ed should pay for that. Special ed has
Correct, and they work that out, but just to keep it where once they get off an IEP, they still have their 504. It helps with tracking kids, and it's just how our district has decided. Yeah, our district is weird with that. That is very weird. So, okay, so this is what a kit looks like. You're gonna have your focus. You have a quick start guide that we created. Your mic, your splitter, so that when teachers are presenting, they split to their class and to the student. You got your mic and your aux. So whenever they're doing any technology, they plug the bottom of the mic into their computer, and then that streams directly to their tech, like AirPods would, okay? This is the quick start guide. We had teachers that have so many issues and there's so many systems out, so we just created a step-by-step process. Turn it on, turn it off, mute it, computer, troubleshoot. If you can't figure it out after that, message me. So you guys don't have to click on this one, but this one, if you scan it, it's gonna have videos and everything for that device. No, that one's different. So go one more. This is the last one. So this one is the one that I gave you guys. I created a new QR code that has every brand of tech, every video, all of it in one place. And so if you find a kid with AB, you click on the AB one, that's gonna come out with a quick start guide, all of that, how to connect it, what device goes with it, all of that. So you guys have that actually in front of you, it's the same one. That's it, I'm sorry guys, that was long.